How is life over at Rick Macci Academy?
Nah, listen, everything's on fire. It's on fire. I on the court today at 6 and got done at 10 and came home, took a shower, and ready to dive in with you and talk about a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, is it on fire because it's so hot, or is it just generally lots to do?
It's always hot, but I've been outside for so long, I'm like a lizard. So I'm kind of used to the heat. So it doesn't bother me, but no, we have the Battle of Boca every weekend. We have a tournament every weekend. So that's 52 tournaments. There's like 150 people in the tournament. Um, so that's this $10,000 prize money. Then there's a $25,000 UTR event going on at the same time. And then there was 70 kids for the academy. Then last week we had 50 visit from Nadal for a junior Battle of Boca. So there's always stuff popping all the time. But that's why I like it because activity breeds activity.
Do you get any time off, or you just keep going 100%?
Yeah, like right now I got time off. I'm off the court. I took a shower. I got a hoodie on. I'm in the air conditioning. My daughter's here. My cat's here. So this is like time off. But then tomorrow I got to do something bright and early with Fox and Friends about Wimbledon. And then I got about 6 hours of lessons, and we got to move our podcast that I have with Dave Meltzer, Game Set Life. We got Chris Gardner on there, Pursuit of Happiness. What an amazing guy tomorrow afternoon. So it's always busy, but that's the way I like it.
Yeah, same here. I actually spent 2.5 hours in the sun as well before, so similar in that sense. I think it's that the tennis bug is tough. So what do you see for Wimbledon now? Like, how does your life get extra busy because people want to have you comment on things?
Yeah, obviously it's a little bit more whenever there's a grand slam in the oven. A lot of people, reach out, whether it be maybe, a podcast or just media in general, but a little bit more, TV. So, and then there's just a lot of stories done because, I do have a little bit better feel than most about evaluating talent and having a feel for this type of stuff, especially obviously with younger kids I had back in the day and where they become, but even with Alcaraz and Florida and some of these people I said years ago that were going to be the real deal, and a lot of this plays out. So I think the credibility of not just giving an opinion, there's a little more meat on the bone. But yeah, from England, to the United States, to Australia, there's stuff going everywhere. And if I have the time, I like to help everybody out.
That's great. That's great. I like that attitude. Who do you think will win on the men's and the women's side? Like, just throw it out there.
Yeah, well, first off, you got to go with Djokovic. He's not going anywhere. Listen, he's the rubber band man. He moves on grass. Listen, he hasn't lost on grass in 6 years. He has 10, he has 23 Grand Slams in his pocket already. 10 Australian, 7 Wimbledon, 3 French, 3 U.S. Open, 94 singles titles, 389 weeks. He's been number one 7 different years. Okay. He's only lost a few matches since 2014 at Wimbledon. So you just got to go with him, especially 3 out of 5. But as you know, grass can almost be a different sport. You get someone has a big serve, but they're getting it in. That's important. You got to get it in. A lot of guys with a big serve at the right time. You win a few breakers. Anybody can beat anybody. But I would go with the Joker, number one. A month ago, I had Sinner in there. I love how he moves on grass. He's authoritative. He went 5 sets with Joker before. I kind of like it, even though his serve's not super big. I think that he could do damage once he gets into the tournament. And to tell you the truth, who's kind of blown me away, or I would have been out in front of this a little bit more, is Alcaraz. I've never seen a pro ever in my life play on clay for 5 weeks. And then I watched him that first match almost lose to a lucky loser. All right. And make so many adjustments. He's closer to the baseline. He's returning serve from a different position. He's changing the tactics. There's not quite as many drop shots, but there's more drop volleys. He's playing more like Agassi, take it on the rise, give you a surprise. It's one thing to modify and adjust your tactics. It's another thing to be able to do it. And it's another thing to deliver the goods. I mean, this guy it blew me away. It really did. I never saw that. So listen, he's dangerous because he knows now grass is becoming his best friend again. Where before I thought he didn't move, even though he's the best mover I've ever seen. Once he starts running, he's on turbo. But the movement on hard court and clay is very different than grass. You got to be a little more nimble. You got to stop a little different. But he's kind of figured that out. So he's dangerous. He's on a collision course with Rune, I think in the quarters, but everybody has to get there. Korda is my dark horse. I love his game. Backhand, money in the bank. Depends which bank you got it in. His backhand's money in the bank. The guy can bring you in with short chips. He can volley better than any of the Americans. His forehand's kind of like Federer, a tight spin. It's not a heavy spin, but it's a tight spin. Mentally, I like his calmness. His serve's going to get better. Great pedigree. Both his parents played pro tennis. So he would be one that I definitely think's in the mix. So those would be the ones I'd be on the lookout for. But as well as I do, at Wimbledon, anything can happen. But you got to go with Djokovic. I mean, look what the guy has done. All right. So now, all that being said, over to the women, it's a little different. I see Iga, in my opinion, not the favorite. I think her forehand is a little dodgy, kind of like Coco on the grass. I think you can get into it more. What I mean by get into it, you can win more for free on that side or get short balls. And when your opponent, these other gals feel that way, they feel they can beat you. They have a chance. We're on clay. I mean, she's like Hingis on steroids. I mean, she just finds angles and breaks you down, so but listen, you win 35 in a row or 37 in a row at anything, marbles, checkers, you got something between the ear. And tennis is a game of inches from ear to ear. So you don't count her out, but she's more vulnerable on grass. So I would go with Raducanu, biggest serve on the tour. She gets it in, most aces, but she's had, a little bit of a viral thing going on. The same with Iga. So they haven't had the best maybe preparation. I would throw Sabalenka in there because of the firepower, but she doesn't defend as well. So she can hurt you more, but you can hurt her more because she doesn't have as much time. So that kind of cuts both ways. I'm looking at Karolina Muchkova. Is that how you pronounce the last name? Finals of French. I love her game. She can rip it, dip it, flip it, chip it. And I love her attitude. She goes, I love grass. She's been injured, so she hasn't been heard of a lot. I love her game. She reminds me of Barty. She can do a lot of different things. And on grass, she can make you uncomfortable, and that makes her comfortable. Now, also, Kvitova, she won this thing 7 years ago. She hits very hard and flat. Okay, she can hurt you. And she just won, I think, Eastbourne or Queens or whatever. So she could do damage also. But those would be the ones I'm on the lookout for. But we got a blockbuster first round match between Coco Gauff and Sonia Kenin, one of my old students. You never count out Sonia. You never know what's going to happen there. So that's going to be a tough first round match. But once again, I think this year's Wimbledon, with all the backdrop with the women, wide open.
Yeah, I definitely looks that way with the men's being pretty much centered around Djokovic and Alcaraz. I wanted to ask you, maybe you saw the semifinal between them in the French Open. What happened with Alcaraz there in this end of second set, beginning of third set when he had what looked like cramps, but it was. I mean, for most people, it seems to be the most alarming thing with Alcaraz that his body kind of breaks down more than anything else because he seems to get everything else right, pretty much.
Well, I think you and I talked about it. If not, I probably talked about it with 100 other people. The only thing that's going to stop this guy is injury. He moves so violent. He's an acrobat. He's a gymnast. There's a lot going on there. Then you got to throw in the diet and it's going to be more that, in my opinion, because he's checked every other box. Okay. And then when you throw in the mental stress of a Grand Slam in the moment, that can bring on cramps, how pressure can affect things like that. So that's something they're going to have to get their hands around. But the injuries are going to be a big thing because it's almost like Zion Williamson. I don't know if you follow the NBA. I mean, a guy is a freak of nature. No one that big, strong, quick, and fast that can jump that high, but it cuts the other way because he's always injured because his body can't handle it. I know it's a different animal and a different sport, but there's common threads there. And so I think he has to be careful with that. But at the end of the day, the world has never seen anything like Carlos Alcaraz. I've done this a long time. I've seen players, I've told this to many people. He's a combination of Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and Agassi. He's all wrapped in one, generational talent. Okay. He can do it all. And the wild card, as I tell people, he's a Broadway performer. He'll do a 20-ball rally, miss, and smile at you. I mean, the guy loves pressure. He's had it all thrown upon him by people like me and you. Everybody's anointing him, where this can go. We're not going to know maybe 10, 15 years from now where this is heading. But the guy's amazing. And what I really love about it, he's a great role model for children. He's a great role model as a human being. So he's checking a lot of boxes, and he's not only changing the way the other pros have to play, because they're adding more tools to their toolbox. Let's face it. You've never seen more drop shots in the last 2 months than you have in your whole career. Everybody sprinkle it in, the drop shot. It's okay to do it. Where before, if you missed it, what are you doing, you knucklehead? Why are you trying that shot? Now it's like on the menu. It's a copycat thing. He's the leader in the clubhouse, but he's transforming the way people teach the game. And that's usually the way the world goes. If you're the king of the mountain, okay, people just want to follow that. But this guy's unbelievable. He's only 20, and the best is yet to come.
Yeah, I agree. Now let's hope he stays healthy. When it comes to the American players, you mentioned Korda, which I also believe is one of the fantastic mover, an efficient mover. But there's also Tiafoe, for example, and a bunch of other players. Besides Korda, do you see anyone can be a threat to actually go deep in the draw or maybe hurt Djokovic or make an upset somewhere?
Absolutely, absolutely. Francis Tiafoe, listen, he believes now. And when you believe, there's more likelihood you will achieve. He's in the top 10. He wants to stay there. He's always been a great athlete. He's been pretty solid off the ground. He kind of has a little bit of the shake on the forehand. It's a weapon, but it can also be a little bit of a liability. He can volley, he can chip it. So there's versatility there, but now the mental part, it's taken a while to get there. So yeah, listen, the way the draw breaks, he can win a slam or two. He can make a deep run. The same with Taylor Fritz. I don't know if he's as good on grass, but he's rock solid with the serve, the ground strokes. So he's not going anywhere either. So those are the Americans that, I really like. Tommy Paul's a great athlete. He can do some damage. But Francis and Fritz could go, as far as the draw will let them. But listen, Korda, in my opinion, is the most talented. Then it's a matter what you do with the talent. And if you can exploit the talent, like an Alcaraz, Nadal, Djokovic, Federer, then you're going to contend for Grand Slams. And I think Korda will win many.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think there's any chance that Djokovic might stumble in some way? What do you think is his biggest pitfall? Because it looks like it's kind of open sailing road, at least, until maybe Alcaraz, for example.
If Alcaraz gets there. No, I think the biggest thing, it's someone's style of game. The first thing you got to do is you got to get into the joker's head. Easier said than done. You know what I mean? Because, he hits quality off of quality, where the rest of the world might have to chip it or lob it. He can counterpunch and deliver the goods back even better. And Alcaraz does that too. They're a different breed. Alcaraz is even another level up. I think someone with a big serve, if they can stay close and luckily grab a breaker and then maybe grab another one, okay? And I know that's a lot to happen. Anything can happen. But it's going to take someone with a big serve to win 3 points. You know what I mean? And not really play as much the actual game of tennis, but one and done. Or, one ball and bang. because the longer the rallies go on, Djokovic is a machine. You know what I mean? And another thing, since it's 5 sets, for someone to beat him, 3 out of 5, they got to get a lot of free stuff. And that's why I keep going back to the serve. A lot of big servers out there, but unfortunately, they don't get it in at the right time.
Yeah, exactly. It's always the mental part of actually hitting the best serve at the most critical moment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I don't think there's been many better tiebreak players than Novak, for example, and looking at his stats.
And your opponent knows that. You work and work and work. Now it's the moment of truth. And you're playing, in my opinion, the GOAT from Serbia on Mount Rushmore. GOATs like mountains, so he's on Mount Rushmore, in my opinion. And your opponent knows that. You know what I mean? Because you went 3-all, 4-all. Now tiebreaker. Now all of a sudden it's like moment of truth. You know what I'm saying? So that's more pressure on the other guy to deliver. Listen, we've seen people step up, even though long ago he did retire with the shoulder or elbow problem with Burditch. And then Sam Querrey, I think back in the day, played amazing and beat him. But listen, the guy hasn't lost in 6 years at Wimbledon. I mean, that alone should make you feel like Batman, Superman, and Aquaman all wrapped in one. So listen, the mental part, I think his toughest opponent is the guy he looks at in the mirror.
Yeah, and he seems to be able to beat him quite a lot. And also the issue for Novak has always been, battling, being loved, I guess, as much as Roger and Ralph are. And he seems to be dealing with it pretty well when he's under some, maybe some booing from the crowd and stuff. Where do you think that comes from? Do you think he will ever get the same kind of credit as Roger and Rafa? And do you think he uses that as fuel?
First off, I love this question. That's an awesome question. First off, everybody's going to love Federer because the guy looked the best, okay? And he made it look easy. And in sports, when you make it look easy and you're a champion and one of the greatest ever, people love that, okay? They just love that. And it never looked like he was sweating. They like that even more, That's a true artist. So, and his demeanor overall. And so that touched differently with the media and fans in general. So that's Federer. Nadal, people love the workmanship, just the lunch pail mentality, the grinder, the machine attitude, and once again, he was more welcoming. He'd welcome people a little bit more. So the Joker, listen, he took a negative and like you just said, maybe turned all this into positive. It made him try harder, made him dig deeper. Listen, he's dealt with more than anybody. He harpooned a ball boy at the U.S. Open a while back. He could add another slam, in my opinion. Okay? He gets kicked out of Australia, and he's a defending champion. And as I said, he's won 10 of those things. Okay? He didn't get to play a few other Grand Slams. He could be sitting here with 26 Grand Slams. Instead of saying, oh, let's just retire, or let's go to the beach. He's used that to fuel the fire. But you know what? That doesn't start yesterday. That doesn't start a year ago. That was long ago, in the wiring, having dreams, mental visualization, a lot of mental training that he's probably not going to elaborate with the public about how he sees it, believes it, feels it in his mind before it happens. And through negativity, and through failure, you become more successful if you use it the right way. A lot of people, they exit stage left. That's why you see, unfortunately, a lot of the women, they go up and down very quickly. Djokovic is bulletproof. And I think he's went up another level with respectability because of the stuff I just mentioned. And he won the French, okay? And he has 23 Grand Slams. And he's not done yet. So I think the last chapter's to be written. And the way he answered the question, are you the greatest of all time now? And he gave so much respect. He goes, that's for other people to talk about. I think it's disrespectful. Many champions before me that gave me this opportunity. Each generation is different. I'll leave that up to other people. So it gave you a behind the scenes look about him as a person, a father, and just an overall great human being.
Yeah, and if he wins Wimbledon, I guess he has the chance to win like a calendar slam at the U.S. Open again, which he almost did some years back, right?
Yeah, no, listen. Well, first off, if he wins Wimbledon, even though I think he is already, he will be the greatest grass court player of all time. And he doesn't have the biggest serve of all time. He doesn't have one of the best slice of all time. Or he doesn't have the greatest volley, or one of the best. Okay? He's nimble. It's footwork. It's his mind. I just think it shows you he might be the most complete player of all time, because it's not even about the surface as much as it is about him and his capability. But yeah, if he wins, okay, Wimbledon, the U.S. Open, going for the Grand Slam, must-see TV, okay, it will be, last year was the Serena show, okay, this will be the Novak show like no other. But instead of getting ahead of ourselves, he has a lot of work to do. I think it's going to be tough at Wimbledon because it's so unpredictable, and no one's just going to give him the trophy.
Yeah, that's true. You always have to fight it out, and then the first rounds can be treacherous. If you're the favorite, and he's always shown a willingness in his career to look for like different solutions, like the dieting, going vegan or whatever, gluten free, everything he's trying, hyperbaric chambers, all that stuff. And do you think that's kind of an inspiration for other players to always go that extra mile, like whether it's mental work or physical stuff that's happening on the side of the court?
Absolutely. Listen, the way you get better is to study people better than you. The way you get smarter is to be around smarter people than you. I mean, this guy's going to go down as the greatest male tennis player ever to hold a racket. Everybody should take a page or two out of his playbook. Okay, because I remember when he first came on the tour. And remember, he's won a lot of these slams since 2007. I mean, I think Federer had 13 by then or something. So, he's done a lot in a shorter period of time. So everything he's done, from changing the diet, to everything that you just mentioned, and we don't even know half this stuff. Listen, this makes you stronger. He has that Kobe Bryant mentality, the Mamba mentality. You know what I mean? Who knows? The guy he might get up earlier than I do. I don't know. He probably gets up. You don't know what he does. He's so mentally strong. It's one thing to say it, but he probably does it Monday through Sunday. And it's the way he's wired. And if you have that, the takeaway is about one thing. You handle pressure better. Okay? You're all about the competition. He's not focused on, I'm seeded number one, I could do this or that. Listen, you don't see him choke a lot. You don't see him, check out a lot. And everybody's human. Everybody chokes and get nervous. He just does it like Nadal and Federer, less than the rest of the world.
Yeah, and another player, when you mentioned Iga, which I agree with you on the reading, that her very spinny oriented game that works so well, for example, on clay courts, might not be as natural for the grass court. But one of her strengths seems to be the mental power. When you work with players, like, is that something you focus extra on these days over maybe 10 years ago?
Well, first off, I've always worked on that. Okay, to me, that's been the leader in the clubhouse. I think anybody watching this, the number one goal of any coach, okay, forget biomechanics or the technical part or whatever. It's to teach the player to become the best competitor they can become. Anybody, anytime, anywhere, run for every ball, no excuses. Your job description is run, sweat, and shut up. That's kind of your description. And you got to get people to buy into that. Because when that's the main focus, like Venus had, and Serena, and Roddy, and Kennan, Sharapova, when you're all about the competition, like I talked about Novak, you handle pressure better. You're not caught, because everything's going to change around you, like it has with Emma. Everything changed around her. But it's still tennis and a court and a ball, and you're there to knock someone out. Everything changed around you, but you didn't change. You're still competing. You might have more money, but you're still competing. So yeah, the mental part. You got 20 seconds to make it happen like 20 years ago to forget. I tell everybody, you got to remember to forget. That confuses a lot of people. I say you got to remember to forget. They usually forget to remember what I said. So what I mean by that, that's the hardest thing in singles, individual sport. That's why you see people excel more at doubles. You got a therapist on the court, you miss a shot, instead of going whatever, that emotion leaves because you're going and giving a high five and hugging someone. You know what I mean? So it's different. The mental part is the key. That's why I took a chance on Venus and Serena. That's why I said Kenin, the scariest little creature, even at 6 years old. That was already there. That doesn't mean you're going to be a great player. I saw it in Sharapova at 11. She was in a bubble. I saw that in Capriati. It wasn't the great fundamentals by the late, great Jimmy Everett. It's not on the outside. I'm not going, listen, I have so many kids here that can crush a forehand and a backhand and have an amazing serve. And they're a better athlete than the other guy, and they lose 6-2, 6-2. So the mental part's the most important thing, because the other stuff you can teach. The mental part also you can get later as you mature, because your brain isn't developed at 9, 10, 11, 12. You can't process. Everybody's wired different. It's a little bit environmental. It seems like the Eastern Europeans are, a little rougher and tougher and can take a punch more at a younger age. But I don't get into that. But that's what I look for. If that's kind of out of the way, boy, that's a big thing you don't have to worry about. But you can get that later, and I've seen that with a lot of kids.
Do you think that generally kids and players growing up in these days are softer than they were maybe 20, 15, 10 even years ago? Do you think the society makes them softer?
Yeah, 100%. And unfortunately, it's not their fault. It's like if someone comes to the academy and they're 15 minutes late and the coaches keep telling them, hey, you're late. I always tell people, if you're late, you'll never be great. That's what I keep telling them. I told the coaches, go talk to the parent. They didn't drive them here, but they're always late. I want you to be consistent, but not consistently late or wrong. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's the parents. You can't have your kid rough and tough and competitive, and then, yell at them and they didn't do something good. And then you go to the mall and spend $500 on it. It doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? It's not the real world. And my experience has been when I've dealt with parents and they played in the NBA or National Hockey League or Major League Baseball or NFL or the Olympics, okay? I've had so many high-level parents that were crazy successful, and their kids played. It was much easier for me to leapfrog and get down to business because they got it a little bit more. If the parents have never played sports or they did dabble a little, it's tougher. But even those people, they want to do what's best for their kids. Listen, I get it. Everybody does stuff out of love. But sometimes by pampering, or babying, okay, you're creating a giant marshmallow, and you got to be hungry. Listen, you got to be hungry. Even what I do, I'm hungry, okay? Not because we're doing this podcast at lunchtime here in Florida. You got to be hungry. There's too many other people that want it. You got to be hungry. Now, you can have the other stuff like a Pagula. I mean, father owns the Buffalo Bills. They're a billionaire. He's top 5 in the world. So she kind of breaks that norm, what I said, but I'm generalizing. Absolutely. Kids are but the parents don't understand. And what I do, I try to educate the parents. I give a lot of speeches. I talk to the kids and the parent, but they want my advice. They take a lot of it because I'm probably more of a life coach just as much as a tennis coach, but they agree, they understand, they say they're going to do it, and the next day they do exactly what they want to do because you're not the parent. And when they go home that night and the door closed at the dinner table, they're there and you're still on the tennis court.
You mentioned Emma and Raducanu before, and I think like one of the things that happened with her, she did really well, obviously, and broke through with like a huge bang, and then she hasn't really delivered so far as of yet, and she has changed a lot of coaches. What do you think that issue is, and do you see like a bright future for her, or do you think like that was like a one-hit wonder thing?
First off, I love the question. Okay, I've answered this many, many times. Listen, you don't go through qualifying at a Grand Slam and win a Grand Slam and not drop a set. Okay, if there's not something special mentally between the ears. That's number one. Biomechanically, there's no flaws on the forehand or backhand or serve. Okay, so there's no little speed bump there. Like maybe I explained with Coco on the forehand, there's a little bump there.
Yeah.
So the technical part is there, and she can control the center of the court. She can take away time. She understands the geometry of the court. She was taught very well. Okay, I have no doubt. Okay, well, let me back up. So everything changed around her in the blink of an eye. Okay, so whatever happened, I don't know. I don't know her. I did reach out to her agent to try to get involved with the team. I actually talked to the guy at IMG. So I could help her mentally, besides strategically, because it reminds me a lot, okay, of one of my favorite students of all time, okay, like my own daughter, Jennifer Capriati. Okay, Jennifer at age 12 won the national 18s. As a 12-year-old, can't make that up. A record since 1988 that still stands today. At 14, the generator was top 10 in the world. Big contract, the next Chris Evert, great American, and as you know, hit a speed bump. Everybody, it was magnified in the movie. It wasn't like that. Goes off the tour. Okay? You don't lose the game. You don't lose the talent. You lose confidence. You lose fitness. Nobody believed in this kid except Stefano Capriati, the dad, Denise Capriati, the mom, and Rick Macci. Even though I wasn't in the picture then, okay? She came back, and I told her why she could come back, okay? Because you don't lose those qualities. Magic. She was magic. Greatest junior player ever to pick up a racket here in the United States. She not only came back, not 50, 20, 10. She came back to number one, 3 Grand Slams, an Olympic gold, huge contract from FILA. Now, you talk about a movie. You talk about, the comeback kid. That's Jennifer Capriati. You talk about the comeback kid in a movie. Now, relating that to Emma, Jennifer was doing lotion commercials and all these things as a teenager about skin products, and she's done pimples, So at the end of the day, her whole world changed, and that's not the reason with Jennifer. So listen, Emma's young. I'd love to get involved in the project. Okay, I don't travel. Okay, I can't travel. Maybe I could go to a Grand Slam. I got to run a business. I don't need a job. Okay, but to help her or Coco, like I do many other pros. Okay, I could help her so much, but I need to know what's in her head. I need to know what's going on with the parents. I need to know everything that's going on, because you don't lose the other stuff. Who knows? Listen, if you're not all in, you're all out. Too many people want to take your place. If you're not going to die to win every point, or you're just playing for the money because you need sponsors or whatever, it's not going to work. So that's why I would have to know what's going on in her head. But I think she can come back and be one of the best players in the world. And I think she can win Grand Slams.
So I think the parent might be an issue for many players, and is it something you encounter a lot, like that the parent plays a huge role? And we're not talking only about juniors here, but there are a few players on the ATP and WTA tour that still have their parents with them very closely in the team as the main coach or as like a side coach.
Yeah, cuts both ways. It can be a positive. It can be a negative. It's hard to comment because I don't know. Each dynamic is different. You know what I'm saying? Each dynamic is different. But if I back the truck up, that's another thing. Even though everybody might look at Richard Williams, as a madman or, the most stubborn guy ever, I love the guy. Listen, we were cut from the same cloth because it was all about getting better. It was all about competing. He got it. He was old school. He loved distraction. He loved people cheating his kids. He didn't need to have new balls. He loved problems. Okay, and to be great. Like Venus Serena said, Rick, we were brainwashed to be number one. I mean, you got to have other attributes. That's why I love the guy. It cut through all the insanity or the forest fires I maybe had to put out that he would say. But yeah, the parents, they mean well. And when the kid does well, the parent feels, oh, it's a lot because of me. Because let's face it, everybody likes acknowledgement, a pat on the back. Everybody wants credit. I get it. But sometimes you got to let them figure it out on their own. Some of the best coaching, don't say anything. Keep your mouth shut. Let them do it. Don't carry their bag. Don't fill up their water. Don't put ice in it. I mean, listen, you saw that in King Richard. Venus picked up that bag in the locker room after she lost when Richard had it. That's a real thing that happened. Listen, I think the parents mean well, but remember, they never really developed a player. They have a very limited understanding of the technical part of the game, like, maybe a lot of travel coaches or biomechanics. They could be good motivators, or they might help a little bit with scouting and managing, and being a support system. And that's a big piece to anybody's puzzle, whether it be a junior or a pro career. But it's much more than that. And that's why I might get involved with Coco to do reconstructive on the forehand and show her the ATP forehand if she wants to, but that doesn't mean it can be done. But if she wants to, I can do it. So at least the dad, that's why I really like Corey Gauff, even though he's kind of the coach, okay? He knows his daughter could do better. And it's a technical thing. Because listen, many people have helped her the last 6-7 years, but here we are talking, and there's still a little biomechanical flaw on the forehand. He doesn't want number 6 in the world. He wants number 1 and dominate. So yeah, the parent can be a positive, and a lot of times you're so close, you want that. The player might want that, but eventually, when you do it on your own, everybody listening has to understand this. When you do things on your own, for better or for worse, your head's going to get stronger.
How important do you think it is to have more influences? Just like, for example, if you had the same coach for 15 years or your whole career growing up, do you think it's at some point you need to bring in extra eyes to your team?
Well, first off, I guess it depends on, to some degree, the results. How they're doing. Are you improving? Okay, are you getting better just because you're a great athlete and you can run and fight and you're mentally strong? Are you getting better? Are your weaknesses getting solidified? You know what I mean? So I think it's good to have that stabilization there. Okay, but listen, nobody knows everything. Even if I do this with Coco, I might bring my partner, Dr. Brian Gordon, in just to get in high-speed video, and we would do this so I could make it a slam dunk. Because he has his, he has a PhD in biomechanics. I can explain it maybe a little better, but to cross every T and dot every I, but that's just the way I am. So to answer your question, I think it's good to have another set of eyes, but then again, too many cooks in the kitchen can spoil the food. So you got to be careful of that one. And I know, it seems like someone like Patrick Moranoglu, a lot of times, he's there to help. He has a facility or whatever and can motivate, educate, whatever. And that's all good to have another set of eyes. But I think it really depends on the player and their comfort level, okay? If they've had a coach for a long, long time, if they want that to continue. So I know some people, they've had success, they got rid of the coach. And I know how some people, they've had the same coach, but they do need another set of eyes. But then again, all that is another set of eyes. Maybe the eyes could be crossed. Who knows? The eyes, just so it's another set of eyes, it has to be the right set of eyes. And that's in the eye of the beholder.
You see some players be more open to that. Like, Novak did bring in Ivanisevic, for example. He's brought in some other coaches over the years. Agassi for Federer changed a little bit. Nadal has been pretty steady. A guy like Stefanos Tsitsipas, who I've helped a bit with rackets and strings lately. Do you have any advice in his case or any thoughts around his game to improve in grass results or in general?
He's always going to be in the top 10. The problem you got now, you got new guys getting better. They haven't reached anywhere near their potential. And, an Alcaraz, Sinner, Ruud, Korda, Medvedev is going to still be around. And then you got, obviously, Joker. So, but I think he's always good enough to be in the top 10. I think he's going to have to sprinkle in a little bit more of the volley. Okay. He's going to have to take a little bit more chances. So he's dictating the play a little bit more, changes court positioning. He has to make modifications and adaptations to his game if he wants to contend for a grand slam. Okay. Play a little easier, hard, maybe. Okay. Grass court, I don't see it. But, he checks enough boxes that he's always going to be, one of those guys because you got to beat him. Seems like a pretty good competitor, but he has to add a few wrinkles to his game. And if he does that and he uses it, he can be right in there with all of them. A lot of times with the grass, this is where AI,
Yeah.
with the commentating, or even with the website or the app, it's going to show you anomalies. I don't think like Casper Ruud, who I taught his dad Christian back in the day, like on a hard court or a clay court, his backhand's okay. But I think on a grass court, because of the grip, I think his backhand can break down much easier, where most people aren't going to even understand probably what I just said. Because he has a great forehand. His serve, when it goes in, it's good. He's a good mover. But he doesn't even like grass. So the mindset has to change. You got to love grass. If you don't love grass, you have no chance. And I don't even know if I don't know if he likes or loves grass. So it starts with the right attitude. It has to be your best friend. If not, it's the end. So that would be my sermon, about grass to any player.
Yeah, I think that's great. Great thoughts. I think you have to really embrace it, even if you hate it at first. I mean, we had Medvedev on the clay. He was complaining so much, but then suddenly something clicked in him, and he had some great results, even on
Yeah,
clay.
absolutely.
I mean, your wisdom is ever shining. I like talking tennis with you because you you always have a good take and also a nice soundbite always.
But
Did you always have this good marketing ability of capturing a phrase?
no, well, first off, thanks. Basically what it's been, I've been on a court since age 22, and I've probably been on a court more than anybody, and how you say it, why to say it, when to say it, and how to connect. That's probably why I still do what I'm doing, 45, 50 hours a week of teaching. And now that, I've done obviously a lot of TV and interviews and podcasts, people like yourself, you can kind of see I'm saying a lot of the same things, but in a different way with a different spin and a different set of eyes.
Yeah, for sure, and that's very refreshing. I
Yeah.
had a question also about a player close to your heart, Venus. She's gonna play Wimbledon, right? So she's been actually playing pretty well of late.
Yeah. I mean, can you believe it? Age 43, BW. No, listen, BW, she's like my daughter. I love BW. Just talked to Richard yesterday. Listen, it goes to show you, and everybody needs to understand this. We always make excuses. Oh, I need to play matches. I need more competition. Hey, and you and I both know that's a legitimate excuse for anybody. Okay. She's so good mentally, and she has that unbelievable fiber of Compton street fight. And she was injured at the Australian, and she hasn't played at all. Really, no matches. She played one, lost to a girl who never won a WTA match. Okay. And then she had Ostapenko on the ropes. Listen, you can't make this up. I just think that alone, brought people back in time, memory lane, how good the great Venus was, 7 Grand Slams, 5 Wimbledons, she beat Serena more than anybody. She beat her 12 times out of 31. So it just goes to show you that she's such a unique player mentally. Grass kind of makes you go forward. She gets more for free out of her serve. She loves playing on grass. I'm sitting here in my office, right up on the wall. There's an article from Angela Buxton in 1992 at Greenleaf Resort, because Venus and I used to practice 2 hours a day on grass, but it wasn't so much to prepare for Wimbledon. That was way down the road. It was to shorten the backswing as a developmental tool, get up to the ball quicker, bend lower. A good volley would be great. A bad volley would be good. And she loved playing on grass, but I use it as a developmental tool. But there's an article right here in my office. I can't make this up. I said, listen, someday this little girl from Compton is going to win 5 Wimbledons. All right. That might have been my best prediction of my life, because here we are all these years later, and VW won 5 Wimbledons. So listen, what she did has to show people how unique both her and Serena were mentally to be doing this for so long. And she hadn't played any matches or tournaments, and to be that competitive. And if you back the truck up to last year's US Open, Serena, all through the summer, didn't do a whole lot. She got on that stage, won her first round match. Okay. Second round, must-see TV, packed house, Serena's farewell, Kvantova, or however you pronounce her name, 2 in the world, Serena takes her out. That people just don't understand the mental part of these two girls is very different than anybody's picked up a racket. And that's why in 1991, I took such a big financial risk. I just saw something very, very unique and bizarre under the hood. And all these years later, I haven't seen that depth of competitiveness in 2 young girls in my life.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, and it's so nice to see that she loves playing tennis. I mean, she doesn't need the money, so she's playing because she loves the sport, and at 43, still going strong. That's impressive.
I'm glad you brought that up. I should have mentioned that first, because she just loves to play. She loves the competition. If Serena wasn't having a baby, she might be playing doubles with VW at Wimbledon. So yeah, they just love to play. Listen, Venus turned pro at 14. Serena at 16, and look, Venus is still playing. That alone just shows what a special young lady she is.
It's heartwarming to see, especially that love for the game, and I wish her all the best. She plays Svitolina in the first round, so it's a tough but not impossible encounter for sure. Talking about a Ukrainian player, you have a Ukrainian girl. How's it going for her? We talked about her last time. It was a strong talent that you're helping out.
Yeah, a few months ago, she went to Europe because she wants to play. She's going to play 6 tournaments. She's won 3 out of 4 in the 12 and under because, she's won 3 out of 4. I connect with her almost every day. I look at video. I'm making sure the technical stays in track because we did reconstructive surgery on her serve, the backhand, the forehand. Anybody that saw her before and now, even though she's a great little athlete and competitor, they cannot believe the difference in how she tries to play and technically how she hits the ball. They're like shocked. But she was with me 3 months every day. So this, the cards you're dealt at a young age, for better or worse, you could be dealt with forever. So she's doing great. She wants to play 6 tournaments so she can qualify for that big junior tournament in France in February or whatever. And then the focus will be more back to development and, just keep building your game. But she's on fire. She's doing great. I love everything about Sofia. You know what I mean? I love everything about this girl. And the biggest thing I love more than anything, I've not just made a difference in her tennis game, which to me is the easier part. Me and my good friends with Edge International, the management company that represents her, and I represent her personally, we've changed someone's life because you see the catastrophic insanity that's going on in Ukraine. She could be one of the casualties. I not only have changed her game so much and her mindset, I've just changed someone's life and the mother and the brother. Thanks to my good friends at Edge, we represent her and I represent her personally. But listen, it's the best feeling in the world and probably one of the best feelings. And I've had a lot of them in my career. But this takes it to another level just because of what's going on over there. And to give her a different set of eyes to look at life and to follow her dream. And for me to be able to be a part of this and take this further. Besides, maybe help this girl become #1 in the world, okay, which it would have never happened if she was there, and it probably would have never happened unless our paths would have crossed. It's probably the best feeling I've ever had.
That's amazing to hear. I actually only have one more question because I know you need to eat as well because you're always on the tennis court and you're always burning for more tennis and bringing more
Yeah.
of Rick Macci magic to tennis. Breakpoint. Now it's out season 2 and some of the things we talked about today were touched in that series. Have you seen it and do you think it's like a good marketing tool for tennis in general?
I've only seen some highlights. I really don't have the time, to sit down and watch that. I actually see it day to day, in my regular life. But no, I think it's a great thing to market. I think when it can connect more people, it's available on, online, different platforms. One more thing, let me comment on this because a lot of people have been asking me about the commentating with AI at Wimbledon.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And, about humans and robots and all this stuff. Listen, it's going to be used on video and the highlights. Okay. And I think people need to give it a shot. I think they need to just see how it's all going to work out. I think the nuances, the subtleties, the attention to detail, that it's going to show people. Okay. And maybe some people don't want all that information, but I think it's going to engage more people. I think people will be going on and off their phones, looking at this stuff. Listen, at the end of the day, I think it's a positive. It's not going to do really the live courts. That's going to be still humans, but I think it's going to, all the outer courts, wheelchair seniors and juniors, people are going to have access to, and they're going to have the voiceover, okay, of a bot. I think it will be great to give that analysis. I think everybody loved it except John McEnroe because he said, you can't be serious, okay? So I think everybody loved it than him. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, I think the bots are going to be calling the shots.
That's a great quote, actually. No, I agree. I think also we need to embrace new technology where possible, and anything that can bring more information, more enjoyment, more engagement to the audience, we should at least give it a try, right? Like we shouldn't just brush it off.
Yeah, they'll synthesize the voice. They'll have a smooth, silky delivery. It's not going to be like a robot. It's not. They'll work it out. It's going to take time. You know what I'm saying? So when it's all said and done, I think it's a win-win for everybody. But even the networks, because it's always what's behind the curtain. For the networks, they're going to save tens of millions of dollars, okay, just on that alone, okay, because they're going to have AI commentating. Then they're going to get tens of thousands of more people involved, and then they're going to make tens of millions of more dollars for more advertisement. So they're going to have the trifecta. So behind the curtain, this train has left the station, and there's no looking back. But initially, I'm sure it'll be like a hybrid on down the road, a human and AI.
Yeah, and it's a great experiment, and it will be fun to watch. And I like when tennis is also trying to be a little bit in the forefront, or at least be with the times, because sometimes it's an old sport, traditional sport, not many rule changes over the last 100 years, really, if you look at it. So it's nice that it does embrace new technology and new ideas going
Absolutely.
forward.
They've already used this in the World Cup, NBA Finals, the Masters, and so I've kind of looked at some of this stuff. It's intriguing. I mean, for me and you who have more depth about kind of what's going on, with all these subtleties with tennis, but for the average person, I think they're going to get, if you want information, it's going to be information on steroids.
I know you're a busy man, so I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I love talking to you. Talking tennis with Rick Macci is a gift, so I really enjoy it. I appreciate your time because I know how busy you are. And whenever you want to jump on again, we do it again happily.
We'll definitely do it again.